I think the Crown might have had a theory of that I was even a real person, that I was some code for something, and I'm real.
There were families there and participating in a community-based setting. The activities that were going on in the saloon, I was in the saloon for a major portion of my time there, and it was a very happy time.
Both Chris Carbert and Anthony Olienick are charged with conspiracy to murder. The Crown is accusing the two men of conspiring to murder police officers during their time demonstrating at the 2022 Coutts protest and blockade. They are both also charged with unlawful possession of a firearm for a dangerous purpose and mischief over $5,000. Anthony Olienick is additionally charged with unlawful possession of an explosive device. Both Carbert and Olienick have pled not guilty to all the charges against them. Now, a small flashback. The 2022 Coutts protest and blockade was this civilly disobedient and peaceful demonstration, much like the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa around the same time, with both demonstrations being broadly opposed to all of these orders and edicts and mandates issued by all levels of government, ostensibly serving the interest of public health to reduce COVID-19 transmission. A witness for the defense today may have blown up a charge of unlawful possession of an explosive device. There are a few puns in there. In the trial of Chris Carbert and Anthony Olienick, Robert Kraychik reporting for Rebel News here in Lethbridge, Alberta. Marilyn Burns, Anthony Olienick's attorney, invited Brian Lambert to testify today during the proceedings. Lambert previously worked with Anthony Olienick as a business partner, and they worked in the sandstone business, basically mining and extracting stone and then refining it for final sale for use in other applications. And this testimony related to the charge of unlawful possession of an explosive device that is laid against Anthony Olienick based on what the Crown says were two pipe bombs found by the RCMP on Anthony Olienick's property. Lambert testified that he observed Olienick use pipe bombs in his capacity doing this sort of mining operation. And when asked to describe these pipe bombs, he said that they were explosive devices contained within tubes that would normally be used for plumbing. And that description is very similar to, it's reminiscent of, two items that were shown to jurors by the prosecution and described as pipe bombs, which lay at the core of the allegation, the accusation, the charge of unlawful possession of an explosive device against Anthony Olienick. So basically, we heard explosive testimony that may blow up a charge against one of the defendants, if you'll pardon several puns. Corey Turcotte testified as a witness for the defense today. She was invited to do so by Marilyn Burns, who was representing Anthony Olienick. Turcotte is relevant to this trial because she spent 18 days at the Coutts protest and blockade. She testified that the majority of her time there was spent in Smuggler's Saloon, which was this sort of congregating point, this base of operations used by the protesters and demonstrators to discuss how they want to proceed, to warm up, to eat, to socialize, especially given the brutality of that winter. She further stated that she spent the majority of her time in Smuggler's Saloon in this basement area, which was sort of like a de facto kitchen. She turned it into a makeshift storage site where she would organize all sorts of donations that had been provided to the demonstrators, specifically food and other sorts of consumables. And this is newsworthy, this is important in the context of this trial, because the prosecution has repeatedly implied and alleged that this basement was used as some sort of storage depot for weapons that they further allege were intended to be used as part of some conspiracy towards murder, specifically targeting police officers. Lindsay Butler, a country musician from Southern Alberta, was invited to testify as a witness today by Marilyn Burns, the lawyer representing Anthony Olienick. She's relevant to this trial in that she attended the Coutts protest and blockade for several days. And in her capacity doing so, she met with Anthony Olienick and also Chris Lysak. Lysak is one of the original Coutts 4 defendants, the other being Jerry Morin. They were all initially charged with conspiracy to murder alongside both Chris Carbert and Anthony Olienick, but Lysak and Morin since pled guilty to lesser firearms charges and were sentenced to time served in remand. During her testimony, Lindsay Butler explained that she carried with her her own guitar in a guitar case. And that's relevant because the prosecution has alleged during previous proceedings, they've implied that these guitar cases were used as storage containers for weapons. But here she is testifying that this guitar case, in fact, was holding her guitar that she uses to perform her country music. I was fortunate enough to speak with Lindsay Butler for a short time after her testimony. And when asked what the importance of her testimony was, she speculated that it demonstrated to the jury that she is in fact a real flesh and blood human being. Now that's important because Lindsay Butler was mentioned in certain text messages sent and received by the defendants that the prosecution has framed as containing coded language that refers to other aspects of this alleged criminal plot. So basically what Butler is saying is that, no, Lindsay Butler is not code for something else. It's not code for a weapon. She's a real person, a real country musician, and there's nothing untoward about her being mentioned in any text messages sent by or received by the defendants.
I think the Crown might have had a theory of that I was even a real person, that I was some code for something, and I'm real. So I think that's what it might have been about.
I think it was important that the jury realized that the actual setting of the Coutts protest, the Saloon, the fact that there were families there and participating in a community-based setting, the activities that were going on in the Saloon. I was in the Saloon for a major portion of my time there, and it was a very happy time. It reminded me, honestly, of a giant family reunion. And the basement of the Saloon was where the donations ended up going because there was a lot of donations. People gave generously. It was a wonderful time. It was used for storage and organization. And they needed to be organized. We couldn't be feeding people rotten food. And there was blankets and stuff that needed to be stored, cleaning supplies, all sorts of stuff, clothing, toys for children, activity books. So it needed to be organized.
The people I met there were some of the greatest people. I'm still really good friends with some of them. I met this wonderful young couple. When I'm playing in the Red Deer area, I stay with them in their home now. It gave me so much hope that this craziness would soon be over. That the world could just finally get back to people loving people again.
Folks, if you value this in-the-field original journalism, remember that we've got operational costs at Rebel News. And also remember, we're not getting handouts from the federal government to toe the official line. So please help us out. Visit truckertrial.com, contribute what you can, and stay up to date with our ongoing coverage.